So, you've come here today to listen to a few spooky stories. Well, I'm the man for you. I'm your guy. I'm your entertainer. So, that's exactly what I will be doing. I will be reading you some horror stories from some short spooky stories. I hope you guys enjoy this spooky season. Alright? Our first story is called Who's in My Bed? Who's in my bed? A father went to say goodnight to his 7-year-old son, very well knowing that if he didn't, his son would have trouble sleeping. It was a nightly routine between them. He entered the dimly lit room where his son waited under his blanket. With the first glance, the father could tell there was something unusual about his son tonight, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He looked the same, but had a grin that drew from ear to ear. "You okay, buddy?" the father asked. The son nodded, still with the grin, before saying, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." The father chuckled a bit before getting on his knees to check, only to satisfy his son. There, under the bed, pale and afraid, was his son, his real son. He whispered, "Daddy, there's someone on my bed." Whoa, spooky, spooky. I think I've heard of that one. I've heard of that one before. Pretty bland. But still, if I was that dad, I'd get the fuck out of there. I would, dip. I would be faster than the Flash. Our next little short story is called The Cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The hike was already getting dark and he needed to get back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was a flashlight, and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late, and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night, when almost luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken-down cabin. It was dark and seemed like no one had visited it in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where, strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was possibly even dead. So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people, all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after, his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early, and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room, but windows. Oh, I got chills. Chills. Are you getting chills? Are you getting tingles as well? Is this scary for you? Is this frightening to you? Are you scared? Spooky, spooky. The red wristband. A doctor was working at a hospital. A hospital where the patients were tagged with colored bands. Green, alive, red, deceased. One night, the doctor was instructed to get a few supplies from the basement of the hospital, and so he headed to the lift. The lift doors opened, and there was a patient inside. My bad, I read that wrong. The lift doors opened, and there was a patient inside, minding her own business. Patients were allowed to roam around the hospital to stretch, especially those who have stayed long. The rule was to be back in their rooms before 10. The doctor smiled at the patient before pressing the numbers for the basement. He found it unusual that the woman didn't have a button already pressed. He wondered if she was heading to the basement too. The lift finally reached the floor where the doors opened. In the distance, a man was limping towards the elevator, and in a panic, the doctor slammed the elevator button to close. It finally did, and the lift began to ascend back up, the doctor's heart pounding. "Why did you do that?" "He was trying to use the lift," the woman stated, annoyed. "Did you see his wrist?" the doctor asked. "It was red. He died last night. I would know because I did his surgery." The woman lifted her wrist. He saw red. She smiled. "Like this one?" Okay, that was creepy. That's creepy. My bad. That was chilling. That's pretty chilling, I'm not gonna lie. White with red. A man just moved into an apartment and heads to the receptionist to get his keys. The receptionist gave him the key with a smile, but warns him not to disturb the door with no number on his floor. He wondered why, but didn't bother to ask. He was too busy with his new apartment to care. After he finished unpacking, he began to get curious. He questioned why the receptionist would warn him of such things, and so he stepped out of his apartment to check the door with no number. Fucking dumbass. He tried the doorknob first, but it was locked. So instead, he got onto his knees and peeked through the keyhole. The apartment he was looking into was empty. His eyes scanned the whole place before stopping at a woman, standing face against a wall in the corner. He noticed her pale skin and long black hair before stepping back, suddenly feeling perverted in a way for invading someone else's privacy. He brushed it off, assuming she was someone that did not want to be disturbed. The next day, he got more curious about the woman and eventually went back, straight away getting onto his knees. He peeked through the keyhole and saw all red. Red. He assumed that the pale woman must have caught him peeking the last time and covered the hole with something red. He left the door alone and instead went down to the receptionist to ask her questions. The receptionist sighed and asked, "You looked through the keyhole, didn't you?" He admitted to it, and so she felt obliged to tell him the story. She told him that a couple used to live in that apartment a long time ago, but the husband went crazy and killed his wife. However, this couple wasn't normal. They had pale skin, black hair, and red eyes. We had to go to Reddit for this one. Let's see what Reddit has. The puppy in the basement. Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy. So I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy. And then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go back into the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making noises, like a puppy, or why he had no hands or feet. Okay, it's interesting. Alright, this one's called Nunchucks. Nunchucks. This one's called Nunchucks. When my daughter was 2, I found her twirling paper towel tubes, tied with twine, in the air. I asked her what she was doing. She said she was practicing her nunchucks. I was very confused as she'd have no way of knowing what they were. I asked her what she meant. She said that Adam had told her how to make them and showed her each night how to use them. She went on to say that Adam told her to practice because she may need to know how to defend herself someday. I almost freaked out, but asked her what Adam looked like. She said he was tall, blonde, and had blue eyes. She said, "Mommy, you know how he looks. You know of him. He died of a headache." I had to leave the room, you see. 4 months before she was born, my tall, blonde, blue-eyed martial arts pro friend had died of a brain aneurysm at the age of 27. She has not spoken of him since that day. So I'm not sure if I scared her with my reaction or if she had completed her lessons. That was not scary. That was not scary at all. Alright, this one's called The Chair. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favorite thing was the ghost. We called her Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings, Betsy and I would wake up, and on each of our nightstands we'd find a cup that hadn't been there the night before. Mother had left them there. We were worried that we'd get thirsty during the night. She just wanted to take care of us. Among the home's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair, which we kept against the back wall of a living room. When we were preoccupied watching TV or playing a game, Mother would inch that chair forward across the room toward us. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way down to the center of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we'd moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. Oh God. She'd murdered her 2 children by giving them each a cup of poisoned milk before bed. Then she hung herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room, with a woman's body hanging from the beam. Beneath her, knocked over, was that old wooden chair, placed exactly in the center of the room. Now that was pretty creepy. Alright, this one's called The Ghost at Home. The Ghost at Home, the Ghost at Home, the Ghost at Home, the Ghost at Home. Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked the table we were sitting at, the bar, the bathrooms, and after no luck, I used my friend's phone to call mine. After 2 rings, someone answered, gave out a low raspy giggle, and hung up. They didn't answer again. I eventually gave it up as a lost cause and headed home. I found my phone laying on my nightstand, right where I left it. Pretty creepy. Okay, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna speed run some 2-sentence scary stories. Alright. I was having a pleasant dream when a sound of hammering woke me. After that, I could barely hear my own screams over the sound of the hammering and the dirt hitting the coffin. I heard knocking on glass again. I thought it was the window until I remembered it was the mirror. Again, I can't move, breathe, or hear. If I had known how lonely the closet is, I would have chose somewhere else to hide and wait. You'd think that you would know better than to walk around in the woods in the dark. At least, next time, pick a forest with more trees for me to hide behind while following you. The clock reads 12, and I can feel her presence beside my bed, as she then scratches her nails across my arm, using her other hand to stifle my screams. Bolting up, I realized it was a dream, but I look at the clock and see 11:59 as I hear my closet door creak open. Now that one's fucked. That one's actually scary. I'm getting a little bit uneasy. She went upstairs to check on her sleeping toddler. The window was open and the crib was empty. I can't sleep, she whispers, crawling in bed with me. I shiver as I smell her scent of blood and see her white dress. Growing up with a cat and 2 dogs, I got used to the sound of them scratching on my door, wanting to get in. But now that I live alone, it's much more unsettling. It's kind of funny. Well, this has been delightful. Delightful. Are you scared? Are you spooked? Did you feel spooked at all? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to upload more, trying to create more videos. I've been busy, I'm sorry. But, yeah. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.